कैंडी हाउस के अंदर हमारी क्रिसमस पार्टी। आज की पार्टी की सारी डेकोरेशन हो गई हैं।
वाह, ये तो कैंडी हाउस है ना?
मुझे भी बिल्कुल इसी तरह का घर चाहिए। हाउस ऑफ कैंडी कंस्ट्रक्शन मशीन। पहले हमें अलग अलग चीजें डालनी होंगी
और बटर
और शक्कर, और फिर डालेंगे वनीला एसेंस। और अब स्विच ऑन हो गया। टेस्टी लग रहा है। चॉकलेट,
ये तो सच में चॉकलेट है।
ठीक है, चलो अभी बनाना शुरू करते हैं।
सबसे पहले स्पॉन्ज केक,
कुकी,
वेफर्स, छत पे। ठीक है, चलो अंदर और भी कमरे बनाते हैं।
वो असली जुआ नहीं था, बल्कि बस चिरी चिरी का एक फेवरेट खिलौना था।
ये खुल नहीं रहा है। नोबिता, वो शायद चाबी है।
अरे नहीं, दरवाजा ऐसे नहीं खुल रहा है।
मुझे माफ करना, मैं तो बस कैंडी टेस्ट कर रहा था।
फिक्र मत करो, मेरे पास गैजेट्स है। अरे नहीं, क्यों ना हम फिर से इसकी मदद से एक और चाबी बना लें।
अरे हाँ,
शायद इसकी फिलिंग खत्म हो गई है।
अरे नहीं।
चलो हम चिरी चिरी से स्मॉल लाइट का बटन दबाने के लिए कहते हैं।
मैं बिल्ली पर भरोसा नहीं कर सकता। मैं खुद यहाँ एक छेद करता हूँ।
मैं मदद करता हूँ।
मैं भी।
अरे नहीं, मेरा पेट भर गया।
मेरा भी भर गया है।
तुम में से किसी को गर्मी नहीं हो रही क्या?
मुसीबत हो गई।
हमें जल्दी बाहर जाना होगा।
इस तरह तो ये पूरा घर धीरे धीरे टूट जाएगा।
ये काम तुम मुझ पर छोड़ दो। मैं बाहर आ गई।
मैं इसे फ्रिज के अंदर रख देती हूँ।
ये कैंडी हाउस कहाँ चला गया? ये लो। क्रिसमस वाले दिन पर ज्यादा बर्फ।
आते
ठीक है, अब हो गया।
ये तो सच में बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है।
तुम्हें नहीं लगता अगर कल सब कुछ बर्फ से ढका हुआ हो तो कितना अच्छा लगेगा?
अगर बर्फ पड़ी तो चमत्कार होगा।
सही कहा तुमने।
ठीक है, कल मिलते हैं।
ठीक है।
मुझे कोई ऐसा गैजेट दो जिससे मैं व्हाइट क्रिसमस के चमत्कार का एहसास कर सकूं।
अगर इतना कह ही रहे हो तो Weather box! अरे नहीं, ये तो खराब हो गया। पर मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकता नोबिता।
ठीक है, अब मुझे ही कुछ करना होगा। ठीक हो जा, ठीक हो जा, ठीक हो जा। कितनी सारी बर्फ जमा हुई है। अरे वाह। हेलो, मेरी दी गई बर्फ से तुम लोग बहुत खुश नजर आ रहे हो।
तो चलो हम सब नोबिता की बर्फ उसे वापस करते हैं। ये लो, ये लो, ये लो, ये लो। अब तुम अपनी बर्फ वापस घर ले जाओ।
नोबिता, मैं आ गई। क्रिसमस के दिन में सच में असली चमत्कार हो गया।
ये तो बिल्कुल अच्छा नहीं हुआ डोरेमोन।
पर चलो बर्फ में खेलते हैं। ये
भी ये गलत है। बर्फ रुक जाओ। रुको रुको रुको। रुक जाओ, रुक जाओ। ये तो बढ़ती जा रही है। डोरेमोन, लगता है ज्यादा बर्फ गिरने की वजह से सब घर चले गए।
बर्फ की वजह से बाइक स्टार्ट नहीं हो रही थी।
माफ कीजिएगा, ये सारी मेरी गलती है। बर्फ की वजह से ट्रेन्स बंद हो गई हैं, तो शायद आज तुम्हारे डैड घर नहीं आएंगे।
हे नोबिता, अच्छा काम कर रहे हो। इसे क्या हुआ है?
पता नहीं, आज की पार्टी में देर मत करना। हाँ,
आखिर मुझे तुम्हारी विश जो पूरी करनी थी।
मैंने तुमसे बर्फ मांगी थी, तो इसकी जिम्मेदारी मेरी भी हुई ना। हम अपनी पूरी कोशिश करेंगे। नोबिता, तुम दोनों यहाँ क्या कर रहे हो? मैं मीचान को उसका क्रिसमस गिफ्ट देने गया था। तुम हमेशा मेरी बात नहीं मानते हो और फिर कोई गलती कर देते हो। ये मशीन तो शुरुआत से ही पूरी खराब थी। मतलब बाहर जो बर्फ पड़ रही है वो तुम्हारी वजह से नहीं पड़ रही थी नोबिता। इसका मतलब ये बर्फ तो वाकई चमत्कारी बर्फ निकली।
Everybody, thanks for being with us on the Oprah podcast. Around this time of year, there's nothing I love more than being comfy and cozy at home, maybe with something delicious bubbling on the stove. I hope that all of you are surrounded by those you love, or maybe getting some much needed alone time to decompress. That feels just as good too. When I think of my guest today, I think of comfort and warmth, just the recipe we need right now. She is one of the most beloved cooks in the world.
Oprah, Ina, how are you?
I'm so good and
So nice to see you.
so nice to see you. The Barefoot Contessa, Ms. Ina Garten, and I go way back.
I had a column in your magazine,
Yes.
which was so much fun.
Today we're talking about the resilience that has defined her journey.
If you're really true to who you are,
Yeah.
if you believe in it so fiercely, somebody out there is going to believe in it too. It's true.
She has a profound truth about how to turn your pain into power.
Certainly people have had worse childhoods than I did. But I wanted them to know that you can make a decision with enormous determination and change your life.
Ina is a woman ahead of her time. She's here to remind us how we too can build the life of our dreams.
If you do what you love, if you love it, you'll be really good at it.
3 stores, 13 best-selling cookbooks, 6 Emmys, 3 James Beard Awards, and her hugely popular TV shows on the Food Network
I can smell the garlic and the tomato.
have made Ina Garten a true household name.
Oh, that looks fabulous. Isn't that great? It's a whole dinner in one dish. Dinner served.
Dinner served. Thank you.
So everybody, thanks for joining us on this podcast. I have to tell you, I am just thrilled to be joined by a living legend, the Barefoot Contessa herself, Ms. Ina Garten. Ina, so good to be with you.
From you, Oprah, that's unbelievable. Thank you. I'm good. I've done everything I need to do in my life now. Thank you.
Oh, it's so true, Ina. You are all those things. You're an icon.
Thank
You're
you.
so beloved and you feel like a part of our lives. Are you zooming in from your famous kitchen we love so much?
I'm in the kitchen in East Hampton. Exactly.
Yes.
It's what I call the barn, but a few people have said barn isn't exactly what comes to mind when they say it.
No, that's some kind of special barn. Thank you for actually doing it there. It's like, oh, I know this kitchen. We know the kitchen. So your memoir, Ina, Be Ready When the Luck Happens, is a New York Times bestseller. So I appreciate you taking the time out of all the things.
Are you
that-
kidding? I
Yeah.
mean, it's just a thrill to talk to you.
Yes, thank you so much. How did you know you were ready to tell this story? I know that on page 293, you write, I spent so much time avoiding the painful periods in my past, especially my childhood, that I wondered if I'd be able to open those doors and what would be behind them. And I have to say, I read a lot of books, read a lot of memoirs. This is one of the best written, best exposed, vulnerable, generous, gracious memoirs I have ever read. It's just wonderful.
Can I just sit with that for a second? Thank you.
Yes.
That's
and I
incredible.
read a lot of them, but this just...
I know you do.
Yes, this just feels like you did the work to make it real. You did the work to bring it home and make it so relatable. I have to say, it is so much work that I have not done it. I have not written a memoir yet because it is so much work. And I read that you did research on your own life to write this book.
Yeah.
You even went to old homes you lived in, and you went through 50 years of letters to and from your husband, Jeffrey, that we all adore so much.
I think I never really made a decision to write it. I just decided I would start. And I was working with a friend of mine whose name is Deborah Davis, and she's an amazing researcher. And she would interview me and record what I was telling her, the stories I was telling her. But she took me back to places I'd been and asked me about it. And I recalled things I didn't remember. But I think when I started, I said to her, let's just start this. I'm really not sure it's going to be interesting because it's my life. I've lived it. I never look back. And I said, at any point that I think it's not interesting enough for people to read, then I want to just pull the plug. And she said, fine, let's just start. I think she knew it was going to be more interesting than I thought. But the process of doing it changed how I feel about my life. It was just quite extraordinary.
Tell me how so.
I thought, well, you and I are going to talk about this, I'm sure, because
Yes.
I always thought I'd been incredibly lucky in my life.
Oh.
And I also thought I did this and then I did that and I did something else and I figured it out, but I don't know how I did it. And when I had to go back and look at my whole life, I realized that connecting the dots was really easy. I continued to do the same thing over and over again. I kind of challenged myself at each time, but at the moment that I started doing a specialty food store, I realized I had already I taught myself how to cook, so I actually was ready.
Yes.
When I didn't think I'd done the work, but I actually had. And so writing the book made me realize that I was prepared for each stage that I got to.
Well, what you just said about connecting the dots, Ina, is something that's so powerful because I believe that a lot of people are looking for purpose in their lives, and most people think that it's some big thing that you're going to find out there somewhere, when really every day you're creating purpose. And if you look back on your life and connect the dots of your life, that thread that connects the dots would have been your purpose. Even though you may have never defined it for yourself, there is a thread that connects the dots of all of our lives. And that is so evident in Be Ready When the Luck Happens. I was when I first heard that this memoir was coming out, I thought, that's an interesting title coming from Ina Garten. Be Ready When the Luck Happens. Because I remember years ago us having a discussion about...
Do you remember?
Yes. About,
Wow.
I didn't remember where it was. I didn't remember that it was the Matrix Awards, but I remember having a discussion, and I didn't remember slapping you, but I did remember having...
Well, maybe it was a love tap.
It was a love tap. I don't remember slapping you, but I do...
You were just like, whoa, wait
Whoa.
a minute. You make your own luck. And I was like,
Yes,
no, I've just been really lucky.
because you were,
And it turns out
in my
you were
mind,
right.
you in my mind, you were already an iconic figure. This is back in 2010.
It was a long time ago, yeah.
And a powerful woman. And you were, in your speech, in your acceptance speech, over and over again, you mentioned luck and luck and luck and luck. And I come from this belief that luck is preparation, meeting the moment of opportunity. So anytime I hear anybody saying, I was just lucky, unless you just fell upon, a pile of money somewhere, I think, yes. So where did the title come from?
The title came from a very dear friend of mine, Rob Marshall, who's the Broadway and movie director. Was when he was on Broadway when I think he was 23 or 24. He was the dance captain for Liza Minnelli's show. And Liza said to him, be ready when the luck happens. And he never forgot it. And what she was saying is, do the work. So when the luck happens, you're ready for it.
Preparation.
And I was almost done with the book. I didn't have a title. I was just coming to terms with the idea that I actually, yes, I'd been lucky, but I was ready when it happened. I'd done the work so that I was ready when it happened. And I thought, oh my God, that's what my life has been about. is getting ready. So I'm there when the luck happens. And that's why, so I asked if I could use that as a
title. That's a great,
yeah,
great,
it was just
great.
perfect.
Well, I think, titles really help define a story. And I think that having that title is what has caused you to be yet again a number one bestseller. Because just picking up the book with that title, you think, wow, I wonder what this is about. And then what you've revealed in the pages. I love in the beginning where you say, I was trapped in a cycle of neglect and abuse. My parents didn't believe in me or my potential, but they held me to impossibly high and arbitrary standards nonetheless. If my father told me to do 6 things and I accomplished only 5, there was hell to pay. And what's interesting to me about that is even the trauma and the challenges in our lives, they affect us and can be turned into power later on in our lives. Is that what you experienced?
And that's why I told the story. And I know you have the same experience. It's in a different format, but still we have the same experience. It's I wanted people not to know that I had a terrible childhood. Certainly, people have had worse childhoods than I did. But I wanted them to know that you can make a decision with enormous determination and change your life, and not make that the definition of your life. And I just remember when I was 15, I remember making that decision. I wasn't going to live like this. That if I was dating somebody who so much as raised his voice to me, I was out of there. That I wanted to be with somebody who was supportive and positive, and I wanted to surround myself with people that were positive.
Yeah, and what's so interesting about your story is that I was raised up, in dire poverty and never having enough and all that. And if I were looking at you from the outside, I would have thought yours is the perfect life. And that's the family I want to belong to. And that's the way your mother and father wanted it to seem. And yet what is so important, I think, in you sharing these stories is that nothing is ever as it seems.
And it's interesting because when I met Jeffrey when I was 17, and he thought I had the perfect family.
Yes.
And
who wouldn't?
He thought, my father was a doctor, my mother ran a real estate business. It all looked perfect. We were very, upper middle class. I went to great schools, and everything looked great. And yet it was the more I look back, and I think as a child, I didn't understand that it was so different, that it was so wrong. I just thought this is the way people grow up. And I think it took me until I was maybe 40 to really sort out how stressful that situation was and how wrong it was.
Yeah.
And so it takes time.
And you've said too, you say many times in this book, and you show us, first of all, I love the pictures too. Thanks for including the pictures.
Thank you. I love most memoirs have the pictures in the well, in the middle. And you have to sort out, where's that picture from? And
yes.
My book designer, Mary Sarah Quinn, and I decided we wanted it to be a picture in the beginning of a chapter and a picture at the end of the chapter, and maybe even a recipe from the story.
Yes, that's why it's so beautiful. You've said many times that Jeffrey helped you find your voice. How so?
Mm-hmm. Jeffrey never told me what to do, which was so the opposite of what my upbringing was, where I was told how to do everything. He just made me feel like he believed that I could do anything, and that we would talk stuff out, and he would say, have you thought about this? And if you thought about that? And we would have a conversation about things. So he just made me, right from the beginning, he would say to me, do what you love. If you love it, you'll be really good at it. Because he knows I have a lot of enthusiasm and energy for things.
He was so ahead of his time, though. I mean, nobody was saying that then. Nobody was saying that in the 70s.
I mean, when I was, when we got married in 1968, he said to me, you need to do something with your life, otherwise you won't be happy. And it's funny, the other day, when I made number 1 on the New York Times bestseller list, he turned to me, he said, you really need to do something with your life. It just reminded me of where it started. It was really, it was just great.
After all these years.
But he just thought I was very capable, and I would be happy if my life was, productive.
Yeah.
If I did things I love doing.
He was a man ahead of his time. And in
Way ahead of his time.
1978, you were working, writing nuclear energy policies at the White House.
How crazy is that?
How crazy is that? You're
I know.
what
I
Ina
look back and I think they
Garten.
left it to 25-year-olds. I can't even understand it.
Ina Garten was writing energy policies. Okay, and then you see this
Like Nancy
ad
Drew.
in the New York Times, and what about that ad struck you?
I have no idea. I think when I was working at the White House, actually the whole time I was in Washington, I was teaching myself how to cook just because I thought it was fun. And I was buying old houses and renovating them because I thought it was fun. And I think my work was serious, but it wasn't really fun. And so I did these other things. So I always thought I'd either go into the food business or I'd go into real estate, and I didn't know which one it was. And so then I saw this ad for a specialty food store for sale in a place I'd never been before. It was in West Hampton Beach. And I thought, God, that sounds like fun. And I went home and told Jeffrey about it. And I said to him, I really need to do something fun. I really, my job's just not fun.
But you know what's so
And
interesting to me? Your mom you weren't even allowed in the kitchen, and she didn't like
wasn't.
carbohydrates, and only made, your first carbohydrate meal. It was when Jeffrey came. to visit.
Exactly.
Yes.
When I
Yes.
married Jeffrey, I started baking bread.
Yes. Yes.
I
And
was like, this is great. I can make anything I want.
it's not like you grew up in a home where you were learning to cook with your mom, and your mom was teaching
No.
you different recipes.
I think I was starving. I was starving for flavor. I was starving for fun. I was starving for connection. I was just starving. And then Jeffrey came along and he just encouraged my craziest whims.
So you
So
see this
I think-
ad. You see this ad in the New York Times.
Yeah.
And you describe the moment that you walked into the doors of the Barefoot Contessas, standing in that adorable little place you write, named after an Ava Gardner movie, surrounded by
Yeah.
beautiful baked goods. Tell us what you felt when you stepped into that.
Well, I had driven, Jeffrey and I had gotten in the car in Washington and driven, I don't know, like 6 hours to this small town in the Hamptons, and it was April, so it was dead. I mean, there was nobody in town. There wasn't even a cat walking down the middle of the street. And I turned into this little store. It was like 400 square feet, and they were baking chocolate chip cookies. And there were specialty cheeses, and there was smoked salmon, and there were dinners for sale. And I just walked in and just inhaled the fragrance of it, the cookies baking and the cheeses, and it just looked like so much fun, and it just looked so pleasurable. And I just walked in and I thought, oh, this is where I want to be. I wanted to come to work in sneakers and an apron and bake cookies, and if they sell, great. If they don't sell, we'll bake something else. And it seemed to me like a big puzzle to figure out, and I love that.
You weren't afraid at all of taking on something that you'd never done before? You weren't?
I remember thinking at the time, this is crazy. I don't know how to run a specialty food. I don't even know how to run a store. I'd never had an employee before. I didn't know anything. So I made a deal with the owner that she would stay with me for a month and teach me what I needed to know. And she was a great teacher. And I remember thinking, do I really want to do this? And Jeffrey said, if you do what you love, if you love it, you'll be really good at it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go for it. And looking back behind me at writing nuclear energy policy papers, that wasn't an option anymore. So I thought, this may not be where I end up, but I'm going to start the process. And, who knew? Who knew that's where
You certainly didn't know that a $20,000 investment would put you 13 times on the bestseller list, and that you would create this empire from. What did you expect to happen?
Even better, it gave me a life that was just so much fun, surrounded with people that I love to work with, doing something I really care about, taking care of people. I mean, in the store, we made dinner for them, which was taking care of them. But writing cookbooks, I feel like I'm giving people the tools to make dinner for people around them, so they create a community for themselves.
I love the fact that your first catering opportunity was a drug dealer, and you didn't know that. And then after that, you learn. You learn from your mistakes. All right, check out who your customer is. I think a lot of women, Ina, are responding to your revelation that in the early days of Barefoot Contessa, that you had asked Jeffrey for a separation. What was going on?
Well, I think, you remember, we got married in 1968.
Yeah.
And the 70s, women are kind of sorting things out. And when we got married, it was assumed that he would be the husband and I would be the wife, and I would make dinner and he would do the finances, and we would have kind of prescribed roles. And I think those roles kind of annoyed me when in the 70s. Even though Jeffrey thought of me as an equal, I just feel like, I don't know, we just had roles that we were playing. And then when I bought the store and I found I had my own business and I had my own, my own life, I found those rules really confining. And so I just said to him, I just feel like I need to be on my own for a little while. And I mean, as Jeffrey would, he said, if you feel like you need to be on your own, you need to be on your own. And so we kind of took a break for about 4 months. And he was to the State Department. He went on this big trip around the world. And afterwards, at the end of the year, we met in Palm Springs, and we just talked. We just sat and talked about what he wanted and what I wanted. And he always has this great attitude. Let's just figure out what each of us wants and how we can do both of them. It's never about what he wants to do or what I want to do. How can we do both of them?
Wow.
And
sounds like
that's
the
how we
perfect
sorted it
mate.
out.
Sounds like the perfect
He's the best. He's the best. He really is.
That's
he
why
should be a role model for every guy.
Yeah, I know you did a book, Cooking for Jeffrey. We should have all of Jeffrey's sayings. We need Jeffrey's philosophy.
He really is so wise. He is. And so it's never, his advice is never, this will be good for me. His advice is always, this will be good for us.
At one point, you were working so hard, you describe this in the book, that you decided to see a therapist, and you say that it was one of the most important decisions you've ever made. How did therapy help you, and why did you need it at that time?
I think I was working all the time, and I wasn't having fun. And I remember going to her the first day, and I said, I'm not having fun. I mean, it's just, I work all the time, and it's easy to get wrapped up in that. And these were the days, and it was true for us for a long time, when Jeffrey would leave on Monday, and if he was an investment banker, he'd go to New York or Zimbabwe or Costa Rica, or when he was in the government, he'd go to Washington on Monday and then come back on Friday. So the weekdays I pretty much had on my own, and I would just work all the time. And so I went to this therapist, and I mean, we did a lot of really good work. But the first day she said to me, "What would be fun?" And I was like, I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe a convertible, maybe a masseuse. I needed something that wasn't work that would be fun. And she said, "Go do it." And so that week, I rented a red Mustang convertible, which was so much fun. Yes. And I hired a masseuse who literally has been coming every single Sunday at 6:00 for 40 years. Wow. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
And I still have a convertible.